Here's an outstanding graphical article on your screen from Bloomberg. A year later, the US is still charting the long way back to normal. In this video, not only will I educate you about the brutal impact of this economic recovery, but I'll also prove to you why the system is rigged. You'll start to see that banks now have more and more money, while millions of our fellow Americans saw their savings gradually dwindle, almost disappear. Even though the rich got richer, because many individuals who did not need stimulus checks ended up getting stimulus checks. Now, as far as this Bloomberg article is concerned, I'll provide you with the link to the article and all of our references in the description section below. This is what makes our channel unique. I don't expect you to simply take my word for the information I give you. I expect you, and I have enough respect for you to be able to check out the links in our description section and dig deeper into the content that we provide, so you can be a more educated citizen and you can learn more about the country, the economy, as well as your money. Let's take a look at the first chart that shows you home prices. You can see that home prices crashed in 2008 and 2009 during the Great Recession. They started to come back, but now after the pandemic, primarily because of low interest rates, the home prices have just shot up and gone up because interest rates have come down significantly, and this makes home buyers more likely to want and more likely to take out larger loans, which in turn creates a bidding war, which raises home prices. In fact, here's the proof. Here's the next chart on your screen that shows you the mortgage rates. You can start to see that the mortgage rates have been consistently coming down as a general trend over the past few years. But take a look at the substantial decline in mortgage rates from about 2017 up until where we are now. You can see that the Fed had no choice but to slash interest rates in order to create more liquidity, in order to make it easier to borrow so that the economy would not come to a standstill. Now, I mentioned assets of large banks earlier. Take a look at this. Assets of large banks actually increased during the pandemic. You can see the section in white that represents the actual assets that these banks have: cash, treasury bonds, etc. Check this out. Their assets went up and their lending went down. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. The banks effectively got richer and fatter while lending out less money. Okay? Imagine someone gets money and stops giving out money. They effectively end up with much larger reserves. As you can see, banks, since the start of the pandemic, have had more cash, more treasuries, thanks in large part to the federal government, and they've been lending less. As the situation stabilizes, the lending should start to go back up and the balance sheet of the bank should start to go back down, because that is how it was prior to the pandemic. Money is meant to be in circulation. That's how economies grow, and I do think that will happen. I believe that will happen. Check out the chart prior to the pandemic where you can see how far apart the lending was and how far apart the cash balances of these banks were. Now they have more money and they're lending less money, and now things need to go back to where they were prior to the pandemic, and I do think that will start to happen in the next 12 to 24 months. Now let's take a look at important trends of unemployment. Here's the unemployment chart on your screen. As soon as the pandemic started, the unemployment went through the roof, and it has been coming down. But the thing that is really starting to bother a lot of economists, and to be completely honest, some of the things that keep me up at night include the right side of this chart. You can start to see that the unemployment is sort of stabilizing and is not coming down to where it was prior to the pandemic. This represents the portion of our population, the low income earners, the middle income earners, individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality, who have in many cases lost their jobs permanently and are depending on unemployment and are essentially long-term unemployed for 6 months or more. These are the individuals who are most in need of the unemployment benefit extension of the $300 a week through the 6th of September, through Labor Day, as passed by the American Rescue Plan. Now, you heard me mention travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality. Take a look at this chart that shows you how restaurants and bars are doing in terms of jobs and sales. The white line represents jobs. The blue line represents sales. You can see that since the start of the pandemic, since the significant decline in March, April, and May, the restaurants, their jobs and their sales have started to come back, but they are nowhere close to where they were prior to the pandemic. I do believe that it's going to take another 3, maybe 6 months for them to get back to life as we know it, because I believe that we are slowly going to start to get out there. And the day that you're sitting and hanging out with a bunch of friends at a diner and you don't have to worry about a mask is the day that we return back to where life was prior to the pandemic. If we go back to this chart on restaurants and bars, you see the portion to the left of your screen prior to the pandemic, to the left of the vertical line. That is where we need to be. And again, if we're having dinner or if we're having lunch at one of our favorite restaurants without a mask, where nobody's wearing a mask and where everyone feels safe, that is life as we know it. And that is life that we need to get back to, and we will get back to. My prediction is somewhere between 6 months and a year from now is when that specifically starts to happen. Towards the end of 2021, early 2022 is my belief. And in a clear sign that this entire economic recovery has been unfair, here's a chart on your screen that shows you that the rich got richer. Some of the graphical work that these news organizations do is absolutely incredible. Definitely check out the link to the entire Bloomberg article in the description section below. Phenomenal work. So as you can see on your screen, the rich get richer. The net worth of the 100 wealthiest people in the United States increased substantially. They were down to just about $1.7 trillion, which is not a lot. I mean, I'm sure they felt poor. Now their net worth is well over $2.5 trillion. The 100 richest people in our country, $1,400 stimulus checks going out to 85% of American households cost $460 billion. The net worth of the 100 richest families in America right now stands at 6 times that amount. 6 times $460 billion, which is a whopping $2.6 trillion, as you can see on your screen right now. Just think about that for a second. Also, here's another article on your screen, this time from CNN. These 5 charts show the pandemic's brutal impact on American workers. Let's take a quick look at these 5 charts. The first chart is similar to the unemployment chart that we saw from the previous Bloomberg article. The job market is still in a hole. US employers cut 22 million jobs in March and April of 2020. Since then, just over half have recovered. You can see that right now, the latest data that we have is 9.5 million individuals are on unemployment. The real unemployment rate is projected to be closer to 10%. In other words, 1 in every 10 American workers are unemployed because the labor force participation rate has gone down. At some point or another in 2020, 40 million of our fellow Americans were unemployed. It's hard to even imagine that kind of number. Here's the next chart. African American and Latino workers still have high unemployment rates. Not only did African American and Latino workers lose more jobs, they also didn't regain jobs at the same rate at which they lost it, which really is the sad part, is the horrific part of this pandemic. Individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality tend to be disproportionately African American and Hispanic workers, and also tend to be disproportionately low wage earners. As you can see on this chart, both before and during the pandemic, African American and Latino workers have generally seen higher unemployment rates than white and Asian workers. And you can see in this chart, African American workers are represented in light blue, Latino workers are represented in orange, and you can see that the unemployment rate for the light blue portion of the chart and the orange portion of the chart is higher than the portions corresponding to white individuals and Asian individuals. And I did mention earlier that low wage earners suffered the brunt of the impact on this pandemic. Here's the next chart on your screen from CNN. Lower paid workers lost the most jobs during this pandemic. From 2019 to 2020, workers paid in the bottom fourth of the income distribution lost nearly 7.9 million jobs, while highest paid workers gained nearly 1 million jobs. So individuals who were making more money, making more per hour, had more jobs and recovered their jobs faster, whereas individuals who were low wage earners had less jobs and lost their jobs faster and didn't have those jobs to come back to. In many cases, those industries, those sectors, those small businesses got wiped out permanently, which is why programs like the Paycheck Protection Program, when done in an intelligent, targeted manner, specifically for industries that need it, not for big companies that can afford to take the money and just lay off their employees. And we had a bunch of those. But a targeted Paycheck Protection Program can help and hopefully will save those jobs now that the new American Rescue Plan has indeed been passed. And this is where things get even more shocking. Women lost more jobs than men. You'll see this chart on your screen. The orange line represents women, 5.1 million jobs lost. The other line, the other color, represents men, 4.4 million jobs lost. So as of February last month, women were down 5.1 million jobs compared to the same time last year. In short, women lost more jobs than men. And one of the main reasons women lost more jobs was because the sectors that women work in, which tend to be travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality, were decimated as a result of this pandemic. Let's show you this chart on your screen. Women-led sectors have lost more jobs. One reason women lost more jobs is because there were steep cuts in the sectors in which they work, as well as in education and health services. Schools were closed. So this resulted in a disproportionate impact on many teachers, many of whom happen to be women. And these are sectors, again, where women have the majority of jobs. You can see that the loss, and again, the orange section represents women, the other color, the darker color, represents men. You can see that women lost more jobs in leisure and hospitality, in education and health services, in government, in retail, and in some other sectors as well. But these are the main sectors. Take a look at retail, for example. Substantially more job losses amongst women compared to men. It's not like anyone was going to Nordstrom, anyone was going to the mall and shopping, because everybody was staying home and shopping online, which ironically resulted in more revenue for industries and for companies that tend to be dominated by men, men working in warehouses, in e-commerce. So again, this is a disproportionate impact on the entire economy, including specifically a brutal impact on women. That's it, everyone. The brutal impact of the pandemic on economic recovery and the unfair nature, the rigged nature of this economic recovery, where the rich got richer, banks essentially had bigger balance sheets, and the poor got poorer, and specific sectors were decimated, and specific ethnicities were decimated. Ironically, gender also played a role. Women suffered more than men financially and economically and from an employment perspective. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. The Ignition Time channel is about the country. It's about the economy as well as your money. I want you to know that we work hard every single day on this channel. All I ask of you is you please click the like button, please subscribe, please enable notifications. I would really appreciate that. That would mean a lot to me. That does help out the YouTube algorithm, and that is your way of supporting our channel. I can make it rain money. Check that out. That is my specialty. I also have a crystal ball because I can predict the future, just like I can predict that this crystal ball is going to go away right now, and just like I can predict that the money that's been raining for the past 30 seconds is now going to stop. Check that out. Folks, seriously, my goal is to help you become financially independent so you can escape the cycle of poverty. Thank you so much for watching. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. I really appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.